Tonight on the Black Channel. Last week we covered Trump's invasion of Venezuela and overthrowing the government there, and we covered this then. And we talked about there's some folks who, from Venezuela, who support it, and this guy is one of them. He's a YouTuber. He's actually got a pretty big following in that amount. I'm sure a lot of you have seen him. He's a fellow who talks about body language. YouTube was really promoting him heavy during the pandemic. And so I'm sure a lot of you have actually seen some of his videos. Well, he wanted to let you all know that he is Venezuelan. And he wanted to let you know that he is 10 toes down for Trump. And by the way, he sprinkled it with a little suspected white supremacist language up in there. Yeah, he had a little bit of that going. So when I say he went over the edge, he went all the way over the edge. If you have children around tonight's program is probably not, when I start playing his clips, it won't be for you because y'all, he just went full over the edge, screaming, four-letter language all the way through. He crashed all the way out for Trump, all the way out. We talking about full Fox News, Alex Jones crashed all the way out. And I'm going to get to that right after we get to something else. Now, Bloomberg's YouTube channel, they did a video about Venezuela and about Chevron. But what they did also was they made a clip here going into some of the history of Venezuela's oil, at least their version of the history of Venezuela and oil. And I want to play some of this for you all because I want you to get some context of this before I get to his video. I want us to go ahead and give you some context about how exactly are they framing the narrative around Venezuela and its history and what occurred and what this all has to do with us now.
Here in Venezuela, a forest of oil derricks grows from the water of Lake Maracaibo.
The golden age of Venezuelan oil sector was in the 1940s to late 50s, early 60s. The bigger players were Exxon and Shell, but Chevron too made a lot of money basically exporting oil from Venezuela to the United States.
The situation couldn't last forever.
You had these social tensions start to come into play, like in many resource-owning countries around the world, where people start to question, are we as the resource owners benefiting enough from our oil reserves?
In 1960, Venezuela became a founding member of OPEC, a cartel of oil-producing countries that managed supply and thus prices. And by the mid-70s, these were skyrocketing. This brought enormous wealth into Venezuela.
Okay, now I want to go back here. I want to play this part one more time because this part is very, very important. This is why you have to have a black media to put this in its proper context. This part is very important.
The situation couldn't last forever.
You had these social tensions start to come into play, like in many resource-owning countries around the world, where people start to question, are we as the resource owners benefiting enough from our oil reserves?
In 1960, Venezuela...
Okay, so in the 1950s, he said, that is very important and very crucial because if you'll all remember, Mohammad Mossadegh nationalizes Iran's oil in, I believe, 1951, 52. Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran kicked out the Brits and nationalized the oil there. So next thing you know, that kicks off a whole chain of events. This is what he's saying there without ever mentioning Iran, very ominously missing that he would not mention Mohammad Mossadegh and Iran. He just says, well, the folks who own their oil, and they started questioning what they were getting for it. Remember, Mohammad Mossadegh went to the UN and said, these people are giving us a couple of pennies for every barrel of oil. They're getting $10, $20, and they're giving us, Iran, a couple of pennies. literally a couple of pennies per barrel of oil. So that was what prompted Mohammad Mossadegh to nationalize Iran's oil. And remember, when this is why imperialism, European imperialism, colonialism, and white supremacy, as soon as you see something like that happen, you got to clamp down immediately. You have to overtake immediately. Next thing we know, we're going to go ahead and kick out and kill Mossadegh, and we're going to go ahead and take their oil. So all of this is history. I can't even say it's history repeating itself. That wouldn't really be accurate because it's not history. This is the policy. It's not history when it never stopped happening. It's going on right now. It never ended. This is policy, not history. So if they mention about that time in history, but they don't mention about Iran and Mossadegh to put this in its whole context. So they want you to look at Venezuela as just some isolated incident that they vaguely put in the context that, well, there were folks thinking that without ever telling you who it was. Because when you mention Iran, it's like, oh, that's why the Shah got kicked out and the Ayatollahs came to power, and America and Israel and its allies have been trying to overthrow it ever since. Oh, it's about them taking control of their own society and their own resources. Oh, it's about that. So it's not history repeating itself. It is the same agenda and policy continuing on.
Became a founding member of OPEC, a cartel of oil-producing countries that manage supply and thus prices. And by the mid-70s...
Okay, once again, I got to stop that there. So she mentions about Venezuela becoming a founding member of OPEC. People, a founding member. This isn't something that the Anglos brought to Venezuela. Venezuela was already of an industrial mindset to begin with. But then she calls OPEC a cartel. Folks, that sounds like a very sinister name when they say cartel. Because they always tell you about the drug cartels, gun cartels. Well, here's the thing, people. These folk, first of all, they're the creators of cartels, period. You want to talk about a cartel? People, go look up the Phoebe cartel. Phoebe. Named after the goddess of light, I believe that is. When they first created the light bulb, people, the filaments were lasting too long. Remember, there's a light bulb today that's been burning for a century. What? Go look it up. I'm sure some of you probably seen the YouTube video. There's a light bulb that's been burning for a century. When they originally made the filaments in the light bulbs, they were lasting for years and years, or even a decade. And so Edison's company and the rest of them in America who made light bulbs, it was America and Europe. And they got together and said, the light bulbs are lasting too long. We would make a lot more money if the light bulbs last for months or a year. And so they went back and made the light bulb filaments a much thinner and much flimsier. And oh yeah, one more thing. The Phoebe cartel made it a priority that they had to get Japan on board. What? Folks, this is the early half of the 20th century. This isn't post-World War II. This is the early part of the 20th century. Oh, we got to make sure that Asia is on board. We can't have Asia, us rigging the game to make flimsy products, and then the consumers will just start buying Japanese ones or Asian ones. We can't let that happen. So first order of business was to go get Asia on board. And people, Asia, Japan specifically, joined the Phoebe cartel. So for those of you who tell yourselves about Japanese cars and how they'll do things differently, and don't worry, they won't get corrupted in Japanese culture and this, that, and the other, man, obviously you are either ignorant of history or not paying any attention to it. Since the beginning, they've been able to get Japan on board to go along and roll with the program. They've been able to do that since the very start. So you want to hear about a cartel? You don't have reliable light bulbs today, even in this era of CFLs and LED bulbs. You should have LEDs should be lasting you literally decades. And you got LED bulbs that don't last any longer than your regular incandescent filament bulbs did. Now, isn't that amazing? Your LED bulbs don't last any longer. Your LED bulbs, remember the CFLs, the compact fluorescents? Isn't it amazing? All these bulbs will use a lot less energy, and this will be more durable, and they're made out of better materials, and this is futuristic sci-fi stuff. And what do we all know? Those don't last any longer than the regular incandescents do. Now, is that accidental or is that a design? That they are engineered to fail within a short amount of time so that you are constantly a recycling customer. Now, let me go ahead and tell you about how by the way, the same thing happens in the automotive market. What? For those of you who don't know, let me go ahead and give you the 720 degrees of analysis you receive absolutely nowhere else. This is the exact same thing that you say in multiple industries. For example, the car industry. Folks, for those of you who have ever worked at a car plant, I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana, so we had a GM plant here. Well, the plants have suppliers. Here's the thing. There aren't a million suppliers out there for car parts. So when it comes to alternators, beforehand, the car makers had their own subsidiaries that made the parts. Like for GM, it was AC Delco. For Ford, it was Motorcraft. My Dodge heads know about them too. So Mopar for Dodge. But for things like bumpers and things like seats, General Motors doesn't make the seats. General Motors doesn't make the bumpers. For example, the Chevy S10, when it was made in Shreveport, it was made by a company called, they had a bunch of suppliers here. So General Motors didn't make the seats. They didn't make the bumpers. Those were given to them by suppliers. So the automotive plant isn't an automotive manufacturing plant. It's an automotive assembly plant. So they source the seats and the bulbs and various things. And then they assemble them at the plant and roll them out the door, and away they go. Well, here's the thing, folks. If you want to start a car plant, if you want to start your own car company, who you going to get your seats from? You see, if you go to one of the suppliers for General Motors, and there's only a couple, you can go to them. It doesn't matter how much money you have. They're not going to sell to you unless General Motors tells them, okay, you can sell to them. This is literally a thing in the automotive industry. This is why Tesla had to get so much money, because Tesla had to make its own stuff and its own supplies because they couldn't get sourcing from the traditional suppliers, because you went to go talk to them and they're like, yeah, we can't fool with you. Yeah, GM is our biggest client here. And yeah, GM, they want exclusivity. So we can't sell you car seats so that you can compete against our other clients. That's still a thing in the car industry to this very day, people. Even if you could start your own car company, you're going to need a lot more money, because you're going to be making your own seats. You're going to be making your own steering wheels in many cases, because the usual suppliers will not sell to you because the legacy suppliers have a cartel. So unless you can get hooked up with the government like Elon Musk did, unless you can get mobbed up and booed up with the government the way Elon did with Tesla, if you can't get the government to get booed up with you, you're going to have a very difficult time. It doesn't matter whether it's Rivian, they basically had to get funding through Amazon, or Lucid, they had to get their money from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. So that's government. And Lucid doesn't sell but 5,000 or 10,000 cars a year, and they've had to burn through billions of dollars, and they get their money from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. So and that's to sell 10,000 cars a year. if you don't have government connections, or you got somebody who is just outrageously independently wealthy, you're going to get locked out by the auto cartel. So if we want to talk about cartels, I'll be glad to talk to you all about the cartels. The car cartel, the Phoebe cartel, the microwave cartel, the rubber cartel. Folks, you don't even want to start this. For most of the stuff you can name, there is a cartel currently in place that attempts to limit or keep people out of the market from competing against them so they can control the price. This is why whenever you go buy a car or a plane ticket, the airlines are a cartel. What? In case you all didn't know, the airlines are a cartel. American, Delta, United, Southwest. There's a reason why when you go buy a plane ticket, there's not a radical difference between them unless you go get something like Spirit. And the only reason that's down is because you're dropping off services or things you would have. You don't get your bags. You can't have a check bag unless you pay extra for everything. But yeah, if you go to Delta, United, American, there's not a radical difference between the prices. Yeah, it's a cartel. It's a cartel. That's the reason why.
Thus prices. And by the mid-70s, these were skyrocketing. This brought enormous wealth into Venezuela. By the end of that decade, its entire industry had been nationalized into the company Petróleos de Venezuela, known as PDVSA.
People in Venezuela at that time lived quite prosperous lives. You had stories of secretaries flying to Miami for the weekend to go shopping. You later have beauty.
Okay, so for all the so-called passport bros who, they think that they are third world pimping or whatever, and that they're introducing South American women to, oh, baby, in America, we have makeup stores. Really? That's right. And in America, we got shoe stores too. So for all the folks here who are silly enough to think that you're going to South America in the year 2025 and you're introducing South American women to civilization like you're Jane meeting Tarzan. It's like silliness runs in the family, I suppose.
Pageants and things like that. Shopping, secretaries. People in Venezuela at that time lived quite prosperous lives. You had stories of secretaries flying to Miami for the weekend to go shopping. You later have beauty pageants and things like that Venezuela sort of became known for, sort of showy wealth.
PDVSA became one of the most successful state-run oil companies, but there was a limit to how far it could operate on its own.
The government wasn't reinvesting enough in these oil assets, causing them to be run down.
And remember the Orinoco Belt? Those reserves come with a caveat.
Almost all of that oil is just too heavy, too sludgy to get out of the ground. In fact, it doesn't move without some sort of diluent to...
Okay, remember we covered this last week, that Venezuela has heavy crude oil, and so you need companies that use processes like injecting steam or other things into the oil to dilute it enough so that you can go ahead and extract it from the ground. But that's okay, because in America, particularly in Texas and Louisiana, the Gulf state refineries, their refineries were set up specifically to process heavy crude.
Allow it to flow. Unlike, say, the lighter oil that comes from Saudi Arabia.
By the way, if you want an education about heavy crude oil, go and look up some of your YouTube videos about some of these oil tankers and some of these freighters and the type of oil that they use, because they use a very heavy material. The oil they use is so thick, it's like clay. It's just this really thick goo that they use. And so that's for the freighters that do your international transport for your packages and your cargo shipping containers from Asia to America. That's the kind of crude that they use. That's the kind of oil that they use in theirs. So there is a use for these things when they get thicker, but for mass market, it tends to be a lot more difficult. So if you want real education about this stuff, go take a look at what they use in freighters and cargo ships as far as their fuel.
Venezuela at that point really needed that foreign private investment, a whole lot of expertise, a whole lot of capital to get it out of the ground, to process it, and to get it to market.
The government decided to open up its oil industry back to the oil majors.
And Venezuela was still attractive. Even today, heavy oil, mainly from Canada, makes up more than half of U.S. crude imports.
Refiners in the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana like Venezuelan heavy oil because their refineries were optimized for that type of oil.
In 1998, Hugo Chavez, a former military officer who had been imprisoned for a failed coup d'etat, won the presidency.
Oh, now here comes trouble. Hugo Chavez, who committed the two cardinal sins. Sin number one, you dared not to play ball with the white supremacist imperial powers. You dared not to do that. Sin number two, you were not openly hostile toward the foundational black population. You were not openly hostile. As a matter of fact, you sounded very conciliatory. You sounded like you wanted camaraderie with them. So Hugo Chavez committed the two cardinal sins. You're not gonna play ball with the powers that be, and you don't sound like you're really enthusiastic about practicing white supremacy against them Negroes either. So I kind of feel like you're gonna have a Johnny Cochran accident. You're gonna develop cancer. Yeah, nobody can blame us. I mean, hey, he caught cancer. People catch cancer every day, don't they? Wrong man in the wrong place at the wrong time. And next thing you know, yeah, you out of here.
His victory ushered in a wave of new state controls.
He passed a number of laws in the early 2000s, which effectively meant that PDVSA, the state-owned oil company, had to own a majority share in all the joint ventures across the country.
The two big...
Oh, so the state has to own the oil because every time you bring in the outsiders, they don't do what is in the best interest of Venezuela. If they did, there wouldn't be an issue. They're not practicing in the best interest of Venezuela. They're practicing in the best interest of themselves and the nation that they represent. So, yeah, that's the reason why the first order of business is, yeah, y'all taking advantage. Let me go ahead and get that back over here. If we can do bad by ourselves, we don't need you to come over here and make things worse. We can do bad all on our own. Why would we pay you a premium for us to be doing bad?
Bigger American companies, which were Exxon and Conoco, decided to leave the country to not upset the new terms that Chavez had imposed, and basically they went into international arbitration.
Chevron, however, took a different approach.
Chevron's Venezuelan business was led by Ali Mashiri, who ran their Latin American operations. He had a very strong personal relationship with Hugo Chavez. This was really the beginning of kind of a special relationship between Chevron and Venezuela that no other foreign oil company enjoyed.
To give you an idea, 20 years later today, Conoco is still owed, for example, more than $10 billion from the awards of arbitrations.
When Hugo Chavez was elected, oil prices were only $25 a barrel. So while he was...
Let me go ahead and address that.
To give you an idea, 20 years later today, Conoco is still owed, for example, more than $10 billion.
So they're saying that they went to arbitration. Who's the arbitrator? Who controls the arbitrator? You all see that right there? Well, we took you to arbitration. Who's the arbitrator? We are. And we say that we're owed $10 billion. Did you get that? Yeah, we went to arbitration. Who's the arbitrator? We are. And you owe us $10 billion. So, folks, that's the way the, quote, arbitration works. You have to go to court, the corporation's court, and yeah, that's the way that goes.
From the awards of arbitrations.
When Hugo Chavez was elected, oil prices were only $25 a barrel. So while he was enacting this period of reforms, oil prices rose up to a record high of $146 a barrel.
But the oil revenue was mismanaged and went into other government spending.
Reforms. When Hugo Chavez was elected, oil prices were only $25 a barrel. So while he was enacting this period of reforms, oil prices rose up to a record high of $146 a barrel.
Oh, so yeah, the price of oil, Hugo Chavez takes over right when the oil prices are booming. Oh man, so in other words, he caught his ticket on the wealth train just in time. Oh, so when Hugo took over, it wasn't like the market went down. He took over right when the market's going up, and he got his ticket to ride the wealth train. He showed up right on time. Yeah, this is a hell of a time for you to start talking about hoarding wealth over there. They got the American oil cartels done jacked up the market. By the way, after 9/11, they jacked up the market, and yeah, that's supposed to be their money, which is why I point out to you all, even last week, they described Venezuela's oil as our oil, America's oil. This is the sick, diseased mind of the colonizer.
But the oil revenue was mismanaged and went into...
Says who? Who says it was, quote, mismanaged? Who? Who says that? It was mismanaged how? They just say that statement and then it was mismanaged. Really? We need some details. You don't just say it was mismanaged. I want to hear what the mismanagement was.
Oil prices rose up to a record high of $146 a barrel.
But the oil revenue was mismanaged and went into other government spending.
Chavez was running deficits of almost 20% of GDP in the middle of the high price peak.
Okay, Chavez was running deficits. Man, America been running deficits for the last 45 years. America's been running deficits for the last 4.5 decades. The only difference is after Bretton Woods, America's the world's reserve currency. Okay, they running deficits. Everybody else running deficits? They're running deficits all over Europe. That's mismanagement? So Venezuela's a disaster because, they're running deficits. Well, it's the middle of an oil boom. America has been involved in every oil boom, technology boom, industrial boom, and running deficits of outrageous proportions the whole damn time. So Hugo Chavez is an inept buffoon who needs to be kicked out of office because, you're mismanaging things. Only 20%? Only 20%? Folks, only 20%. It was terrible. It was awful. Are you sure that's all it was? Because every time you offend the colonial powers, next thing you know, we put a stranglehold on your economy. We put sanctions on you. Because, by the way, they're not mentioning that part. Did anybody notice they're not mentioning that part? They're not mentioning how the American government has been taking actions against Venezuela the whole time. It wasn't like Hugo Chavez just got to operate like everybody else. That you notice they haven't said the word sanctioned yet. They're just talking about he was running deficits. They're not saying anything about what America was doing to strangle their economy. Notice they're not saying that, Bloomberg. Talk about giving money to HBCUs. So this is a complete fraud account of history. This is just a fraudulent recounting of what occurred because they're leaving out, by the way, oh yeah, we're the ones who were strangling them. So that's why you have me here hitting the pause button every other sentence to say, wait a minute now, let me clear up that lie she just told.
Chavez was running deficits of almost 20% of GDP in the middle of the high price peak.
The amount of corruption that quickly developed, the amount of mismanagement of the oil industry was quite dramatic.
This was the situation Nicolas Maduro inherited when he took office following Chavez's death in 2013.
So the economy was already in deep trouble and it went into a tailspin. It basically reached hyper.
Okay, folks, do y'all know this happens to everybody that crosses the colonial powers? Everybody who crosses them, next thing you know, your economy gets strangled. We tell folk not to do business with you. We cut off supplies. Your currency goes into inflation and hyperinflation. Zimbabwe, Libya. It's the same playbook everywhere. First order of business is they declare economic war. They declare economic war on you. And then next thing you know, your economy goes under siege. Oh, there goes your currency. Here comes inflation. You can't get natural resources. You can't get any funding because you have to go to, if you don't go to the European powers to get funding, so you end up going to the Chinese loan shark. So you end up hooking up with the Belt and Road Initiative because the traditional powers, they don't want to do business unless they can exploit you and whore you. So if they can't exploit you and whore you, well, they don't want to do business with you. Now they're going to try to sabotage your economy. And then next thing you know, your currency starts going into hyperinflation. Isn't that amazing that everywhere you go, you see that? You offend them, next thing you know, here comes hyperinflation and devaluation of your currency. Wow, isn't that a big coincidence, everybody?
Inflation.
And it remains a persistent problem that, for outside observers, is near impossible to gauge.
Okay, folks, do you all realize that they talked about Nicolas Maduro? You notice she hasn't said the word sanctions or embargo or anything yet. I'm trying to draw your attention to this. Okay, she's doing all this talking about what's happening as if somehow, well, they're just victims of their own ineptness or their own ineptitude or their own incompetence. She ain't said a word about the embargoes or the sanctions yet. Not a word. She's gone from Chavez to Maduro and ain't said, by the way, America declared economic war and put on sanctions and trying to overthrow the government and trying to get rebels against the government. She ain't said a word. Why? How in the hell do you get this far along? You've gone to the second president and haven't said a word about that yet. About America's role, that America caused this. How the hell are you a news outlet and I'm sitting up here talking about it and she hasn't said a syllable yet? Man, these white supremacist news outlets are a son of a gun, ain't they?
So the economy was already in deep trouble and it went into a tailspin.
Because of you.
Basically reached hyperinflation.
Because
and
of
it
you.
remains a persistent problem that, for outside observers, is near impossible to gauge. Bloomberg's Café con Leche Index, as the name would suggest, tracks just one item, a cup of coffee. Its price has increased 587% over the past 12 months.
Across the country, people's savings started to get wiped out. There was huge economic disarray. This caused a groundswell of protests.
Okay, folks, and this is the standard playbook for America and the Western powers. This is the CIA playbook. America causes the issue. The West causes the issue. They instigate riots in your country for the specific purposes of destabilizing your government. Now they just openly say, we want these people to overthrow their government. We support you overthrowing your government. Could you all imagine Russia getting on YouTube and saying, we support Americans overthrowing their government? We support Americans ousting their government from office? Could you imagine that? So you see this everywhere, folks. You see it in Iran right now. You saw it in Egypt, Libya, Syria, every country that America wants to overthrow. They make you think that, there are all of these dissidents and all these unhappy, discontent citizens. And, their government is just so corrupt because America's government is so righteous, of course. America's government is so great and righteous. No corruption over here, no injustice over here, no tyranny here in America. Nope, that's just everywhere else. But you see this all the time, folks. You turn on the news, and next thing, folks are out there in the streets in mass. That's the CIA. The CIA, everywhere you go, they organize students. The CIA has perfected the art of organizing students, college students, young people. They've perfected, quote, organizing them. This is why the Black Panthers were such an irritant and such a problem to them, because you had college-age black people who had organized themselves to take to the streets. The CIA didn't instigate that. But folks, everywhere you go, if there's a government they don't like, next thing you know, there's people in the streets demonstrating or rioting or demanding the overthrow of that government. This is what the CIA does everywhere. You see, we can name country after country and nation after nation where you've seen this over and over and over and over again. These are not natural demonstrations. It's the CIA doing what it does.
This caused a groundswell of protests domestically.
Tens of thousands took to the streets of Venezuela today, demanding that aid be allowed to flow into the country,
which Nicolas Maduro clamped down on pretty hard.
Okay, let me explain something here right now. Now, Jason, Nicolas Maduro was blocking aid coming into the country. Folks, okay, tell me, which one is it? Do you have sanctions against Venezuela, or are they blocking aid? Which one is it? Venezuela's getting a bunch of aid and Maduro's blocking it, or you got sanctions on him and ain't no aid coming in? Which one is it? It can't be both. Which one is it? And the other thing is, if you're only allowing in a trickle of supplies, by definition, a trickle of supplies is going to lead to people fighting over resources for survival. So this is not natural. This is them doing what they do. We're going to strangle your economy, strangle the supply of resources, and when folks start fighting, we're going to say, see what Maduro did? Wow, look at what Maduro did. Hey, y'all better get the hell back here from our tankers, and no tankers coming in. Oh, look at Maduro. Why, he's mismanaging resources. See, communism just doesn't work. Socialism just doesn't work. See, it just doesn't work. Look at all the people in the street starving while I'm sitting over here hoarding all the food from them. I'm blocking the food aid from getting in, just like Gaza and other places, in Palestine and other places. I'm blocking all the aid getting in, but no, it's their government, boy. If they would just play ball with us, if their government would just get with our program and follow our rules, why, everything would have been fine. But see, we left them alone, and why, they're just wasting and mismanaging, and now they're attacking their own citizens. Oh man, why, Maduro is attacking his own citizens. He wants his own citizens to starve. Does that even make sense to you? And everywhere you go, they claim that they're saving you from your corrupt government everywhere you go. Same song and dance over and over. And I want you to understand that when you see folks taking the streets, there's one more thing that these other people, maybe the problem is that they are not quite so tolerant to these abject conditions that they're in. Maybe that's the point of it. And that is not actually a bad thing. But when you have some outside party instigating these things, that's the problem.
down on pretty hard.
He's claiming they clamped down pretty hard. What is the government supposed to do? America is sitting up here instigating to overthrow your government, and these Anglo-white supremacists tell you that, oh, you're supposed to just allow yourself to be overthrown so they can come take over.
This shows how Venezuela's contribution to the world's oil supply dwindled during this period. Meanwhile,
okay, what about the sanctions, people? Folks, she hasn't said the word They keep putting up this graph and never say the word sanctions. And by the way, hey, we were strangling it. Notice they never say that. They're acting like they just went in Venezuela and said, "Oh well, we don't want to export oil anymore." Why has she not said that? By the way, we strangled them and prevented them from doing this. We put sanctions on them. Why has she not said that yet, people? They are a despicable lot.
Donald Trump was in his first term and took a decidedly hardline approach, backing opposition lawmaker Juan Guaido's bid to take control.
Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President.
Now, let me back this up right quick.
Mr. President.
I want to show you, folks. They are twin wings on the bird of white supremacy. They are twin wings on the bird of white supremacy. The so-called Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, the so-called Republican, Mike Pence, Donald Trump, and both of them sitting there clapping for imperialism. Both of them in lockstep. With the whole government following them. Take a look in the peanut gallery. There they are, clapping for it, applauding it. There is no distinction between them. You can have liberal white supremacy or conservative white supremacy. Which flavor would you like? We serve two flavors of white supremacy: left-wing white supremacy, right-wing white supremacy. How would you like your white supremacy flavored? Left wing or right wing? Which flavor do you prefer? We're going to go ahead and stop that there, by the way. And let me just say one more thing here. I am not by any means claiming or saying that Nicolas Maduro was a great guy or a wonderful guy, fabulous legislator, fabulous president, no corruption whatsoever. I'm not saying anything even remotely close to that. I am making no characterizations about how he administered his presidency than anybody else, or the legitimacy of the election. I'm not speaking on that whatsoever. What I'm saying is I couldn't help but notice there was no ambiguity about Hugo Chavez. Now, there was no ambiguity about him, and he got treated the same damn way. It wasn't like Hugo Chavez was welcomed with open arms and treated fairly and justly, and things just kind of went off the rails. That wasn't what happened. And Maduro was just the successor of it, whether you think he stole the election or not. But by the way, you want to talk about stolen elections in America, we can show you a few things there. America can teach you a few things about stealing elections if you want to be honest about it there. You know, the Voting Rights Act and gerrymandering and rigging voter booths and voter polling places. And, you know, you want to talk about rigging elections. Hey, America can teach everybody a thing or two about that, if that's the subject of discussion. So I'm making no characterization of saying that Maduro or even Hugo Chavez, for that matter, were angels or saints or whatever. What I'm saying is that's their country. That is their nation. And they were not really allowed to run it unmolested. These are outside powers putting the muscle on you. And that's in reality what was occurring. So if we're going to talk about Venezuela and you leave that out, then you're not actually discussing Venezuela. That's the issue. If you will not be honest and forthcoming about the whole series of events in Venezuela, and you're just handing out the hand-selected propaganda, then we can't have a discussion about Venezuela or quote-unquote what's wrong with it. Because you're not actually discussing what really went wrong. And that brings us to this gentleman here. Well, folks, now he's been a YouTuber who has spent his time talking about, his name is Jesus Rosas, and he spent his time talking about, a lot of things for body language. So he's got almost 1 million subscribers, and he's made his YouTube career talking about body language. So he's got a lot of videos about that. I think he talked about Will Smith and some other things. So that's been his bread and butter. Well, straight out of left field, although he probably would prefer right field, it comes this. And it is the most, I'm forewarning you in advance, it is the most vulgar, profanity-laced tirade of almost 20 minutes. What you're about to see is directly from his video. And if you have children around, he uses a bunch of vulgar, profane language, so you might want to send them in the other room to go play PlayStation or something. But I want you to hear what this fella had to say, because he's never really talked about being Venezuelan like that before. His channel isn't really a political channel. He just talk about body language and, basically like celebrities if folks are breaking up. And he's like, oh, take a look at their body language. Then out of left field comes this. So right out of the gate, he comes swinging.
Let's do this. Open letter from Jesus Enrique Rosas, the body language guy, to liberals, Democrats, libtards, and the general woke mob.
Okay, so you hear the woke mob, so you already know where this is going.
I see too many fuckers in here gripping their ethically sourced oat milk latte so hard, the cardboard sleeve is whimpering, staring at footage of us, actual Venezuelan human beings who have spent the last decade eating sleep for dinner, cheering for the orange man. How dare we, right? And it hurts, doesn't it? It feels like your brain is trying to divide by zero while some asshole kicks your junk with Delta Force boots. Since I do know that. I know you ain't gonna read all this. This is the summary. Fuck you and your actually gag reflex.
So he just basically said, damn a YouTube channel, damn the subject matter, damn the profession, damn the career. All that flew out the window behind a country that he doesn't even live in anymore, by the way. Behind a country that he isn't even living in. Okay, right now I think he said he was in Europe. So he's in Europe, but he wants to let you know that he left his heart in Venezuela.
Too bad your squirrel mind can't fathom a guy in Caracas who has lost 40 pounds because of a collapsing economy and whose local currency is less valuable than a used napkin, is weeping with joy because he thinks 47th is his ticket out of a socialist fever dream.
Okay, if he believes that, then he is woefully mistaken, is the first response. The number one reason for not cheering that is because you think Donald Trump is doing this for the benefit of the Venezuelans? Unless you really just are looking for revenge against Maduro personally, and that's all you want, because that's all you're going to get. If that's your goal, well, I guess you succeeded. But if it's like, okay, great, this is going to be my ticket to a new place, yeah, you are woefully mistaken, because you can't name anywhere that the imperialists came in bombing, took over, and then things got better for you as a direct result of that. Take a look at Vietnam if you want to see an example of that.
And yes, we have been waiting for this moment for decades. But your immediate lizard brain reaction is to push up your glasses, scoff, and say, actually, Do these Venezuelans realize that Trump's stance on globalism is intellectually inconsistent with the neoliberal framework required for true South American stability? No, you absolute dipshit. We don't.
Okay, English is not his first language, but clearly vulgarity is. Take a look at how he's getting hacked off about this, folks. This doesn't look very prim or proper or buttoned down or professional. Maybe I should give him my analysis of his body language. What?
Because we are too busy being excited about the possibility of living in a country where Maduro's colectivos won't shoot us in the face with a sawed-off shotgun just for walking down the street. And I'm making a pause on this. We got all the pictures that you want.
Okay, now for anybody who would want to defend what he just said there, well, Jason, I mean, in Maduro regime, they can shoot you for walking down the streets. That sounds like walking while black. What? By the way, that sounds like walking while black in America, driving while black in America, going to school while black in America. You are subject to random state-sanctioned, state-defended random violence. Like, for example, your 17-year-old black child can go to the grocery store or the corner store to go buy some Skittles and some iced tea, and there will be a state-sanctioned murder of your 17-year-old child by someone of the persuasion of Mr. Rojas here, by the way. By the way, Mr. Rojas, kind of your persuasion, but I digress. Actually, I don't. But, yeah, sir, it sounds just like that. Now that you say it like that, it sounds just like what you just said, yeah.
I won't post those pictures and those photos, not even on X, because they are too gruesome, way too disturbing. You are more worried about the optics of a right-wing populist getting a win than you are about the fact that Maduro's government has been running a nationwide Hunger Games reality for years, and nobody, not you, not the international community, has cared one bit about us through all this.
Okay, well, that's not really a true statement, but the issue here is, once again, people, that's Venezuela's government. That's them. So the idea is, okay, call in the imperialists. It's not about who cares about it. It's about, by the way, that issue needs to get handled.
Never. They have never cared about us. At all. But they say, but Trump is a threat to our institutions. He's literally Hitler. I'm gonna tell you a personal anecdote. You liberal piece of shit.
Okay. So he wants to let you all know that he's a right-winger and he's against the woke people. So if you want to know exactly what he's about, well, get on board the train there. So he's letting you know who he's
outside Venezuela. And yes, this is something that some people have, I don't know, animals, subhumans have reached out to me. So there's some kind of gotcha. You can't be Venezuelan. You are in Europe. Fuck! What kind of level of retardation is that? I don't get it. I don't get it. How can somebody be so retarded?
Okay, well, folks, I want to back this up here for just a moment here. I want to replay that part again because he spoke about subhumans. They're subhumans because he feels they're not being sympathetic to him. So keep that in mind about his attitude about people being subhuman, because surely he would never engage in that kind of behavior, right?
Some people have, I don't know, animals, subhumans have reached out to me. So there's some kind of gotcha. You can't be Venezuelan. You are in Europe. Fuck! What kind of level of retardation is that? I don't get it. I don't get it. How can somebody be so retarded? I can't understand that the Venezuelan diaspora is close to 9 million people. Where do you think those 9 million people go?
I mean, they ran from Venezuela. Clearly, you're one of them.
And to the moon? We have to be somewhere.
Just not Venezuela.
Fuck face. So, I can't enter the country anymore for obvious reasons. Or at least not yet.
Okay, so folks, when you were asking, well, Jason, what was the benefit Marco Rubio gets out of supporting this? This is the benefit that they get. If for nothing else, they will be able to set foot on Venezuelan soil or Cuban soil again at some point.
Because I would disappear without a trace, just like your Abrodian lifestyle funding tax money in the liberal blue shithole you live right now. And I suggest, you're not gonna do anything about that, right? Because you love Abrodians. Why don't you host an Abrodian in your house? Is my question. You won't do that? Well, I'm sure you won't do it. You hypocrite. But well, it is what it is. But just keyboard stuff. Any Venezuelan would literally vote for a sentient head of lettuce if it promised to stop these motherfuckers from torturing and raping our families.
Okay, well, he's gone well beyond Blue Dog. So we would vote for a head of lettuce. All right. That's significantly beyond a blue dog.
And yes, I'm going to add to this letter that I did not include here the fact that girls in prisons had to prostitute herself for food.
And he's not upset with the American government, including the first Trump administration. He's not upset with them over that. He's upset with some mythical, liberal, woke, whatever. That's who his ire is for. His ire is for that. So, yeah.
It's not about identity or discourse. For us, you can't fathom that for us, Venezuelans, politics is not about identity or discourse.
Oh, so it's not about identity. Oh, okay. He just finished telling you about the Venezuelan diaspora. Then he tells you it's not about identity. Very clearly, it is about identity because you just spoke about the Venezuelan diaspora. Otherwise, you would just be kicking it in Europe. And if you were worried about survival, seems like you solved that survival issue and you would just be kicking it in Europe. Maybe the problem isn't that Venezuela is so messed up. Maybe the reason that Europe is more tranquil than Venezuela is because Europe is meddling and instigating conflict in Venezuela, and Venezuela doesn't have the power or ability to reciprocate and to sow discontent and conflict in Europe. As opposed to this lie that, our societies that we fled to are just better. Maybe it's your society's not better. Maybe it's the only one sowing conflict in other places, and the other places don't have the ability to reciprocate in kind. Of course, that would require rationality, facts, and mathematics.
For us, politics have become a matter of survival. And we have been betrayed so many times by the so-called political opposition, and I'm gonna name a few names. Leopoldo López, el coño de tu madre. Juan Guaidó, el coño de tu madre. Henry Ramos Ayú, Julio Borges, todos ustedes son unas ratas de mierda. Mamagüevos todos, lo único que voy a decir. Plastas de mierda.
Okay, well, here's where this issue comes down to. If the people support that kind of thing, maybe the people have to suffer long enough until they've grown tired of it and they don't support it at all. But if you find yourself in the minority and a bunch of your countrymen are supporting wacky things, that's a Maduro issue, or are they just meeting market demand?
We have been betrayed so many times by the opposition. Bueno, ni menciona a Capriles. Capriles ya venezolano. Capriles sabe, ni lo menciona. Ese ni es oposición. We have been betrayed for so many of them.
Well, wasn't Trump just sitting up there, cheering about the real president of Venezuela, by the way? Wasn't he just cheering for him?
True and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President.
Okay, wasn't Trump just cheering for the opposition? All right. But he's still 10 toes down for Trump. All right.
We are tired of all this shit. We have grown too old and too weary to listen to your whining about international law. You can do whatever you want with your international law. We don't care about that. Where was your international law when our students were being killed on the streets? Where was the uproar?
So he's not worried about, he's not worried about Trump and friends or anything like that. He's not worried about that. So America's role in it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. So, all right. I'm skipping ahead here because there's another part I want to get to here because I want to give you all the main event, what you came here for. So I want you to hear this part.
So fucking many of those Venezuelans out there. And I feel embarrassed. And there are so fucking many of those Venezuelans out there. And I feel embarrassed. Because I cannot, for the life of me, understand a Venezuelan leaving Venezuela for the United States, enjoying the fruits of capitalism, voting for Biden, voting for Kamala, not voting for Donald Trump, thinking that Donald Trump is like Hugo Chavez. What kind of retarded reasoning is that?
All right, folks. So basically that Florida right-wing Fox News neocon hardcore right-winger stuff. Yeah, he's not even in America, but I mean, he's got the whole script. He's got the entire script. We are so far off the subject of body language, but he's got the entire script now, doesn't he? He's ready to be a guest panelist on Fox News next to Dan Bongino and Judge Pirro now, isn't he?
Trump takes Maduro out of the country and you can't even say thank you? So I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it for the Venezuelans that are thankful for Donald Trump. I am proud to thank Donald fucking J. Trump for this. I'm thankful, Mr. President, that I don't care about everything that people are saying that, oh, you did not, why didn't you take Diosdado as well? Why didn't you take Vladimir Padrino as well? Why didn't you do everything as well? People are simultaneously complaining that Trump did too much and did too little.
So when I said he crashed all the way out, I mean, he wanted to let y'all know he's basically going on the borderline. Trump is the savior. Trump is the saint. I mean, he just, thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Master Trump. Thank you. No shame, no nothing, y'all. All the way from Europe now. He's all the way over there in Europe. So he's talking about Venezuela, thanking a president in America while he's sitting in Europe. It sounds like a comedy sketch, but it's not.
Same time. Yeah, people are that retarded. And there are Venezuelans as well complaining about that. And I'm embarrassed for it. Because there are retarded Venezuelans as well. But to be fair, there are retarded people in everywhere. Retardation is something that is equal everywhere.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that he wants to bring that up because he wants to let you know that, by the way, he's an equal opportunity hater, right? Well, because he just talked about, subhumans and things. So I'm so glad that he wants to let you all know that, by the way, retardation is everywhere. It's not like I'm singling a certain group out for hate. Well, I'm so glad that he did that because certainly he's not about to single out a specific group for hate. And I'm sure it won't be, I don't know, the usual suspects they usually target. I'm sure it won't be that.
As well complaining about that, and I'm embarrassed for it because there are retarded Venezuelans as well. But to be fair, there are retarded people in everywhere. Retardation is something that is equal everywhere. You can have retarded Americans, retarded Venezuelans, retarded French, Somalians. Well, it's like retarded Somalians is. You can just say Somalians, by the way, but
what? Yeah. This is the guy just wanting to lecture you about subhumans. Yeah, for everybody who like Jason, I mean, you talking about white supremacists here. I mean, really? I mean, you stretching. Where's your proof? Where's your proof? Okay. All right. I mean, you all see the code language up in there, when you hear the BLM talk and stuff like that. But by the way, yeah, there it is. That didn't take very long now, did it? That didn't take very long at all.
It's something that is equal everywhere. You can have retarded Americans, retarded Venezuelans, retarded French, Somalians. Well, it's like retarded Somalians is. You can just say Somalians, by the way, but you understand my point. It's retarded, and it's really rude to not say thank you for something that we have been expecting for so long, even if you don't like the guy. But to you, modern liberals, rot of all societies, our thank you is the real tragedy here because it means the bad man got a nice gold star. Utter narrative fuckery that rains diarrhea on your carefully curated elitist worldview. You don't like that, right? You don't like a win, an obvious win from Donald Trump. Again, we are approaching the level. We are approaching the level of the actual meme. Donald Trump is going to cure cancer at some point. Hypothetically, there is a non-zero chance that he could. And people are going to protest that humanity deserves the right to get cancer. How dare you? That's the extent of Trump derangement syndrome.
I mean, he's got all the talking points. He's got all the talking points. He's got all the slogans, all the cliches. I mean, he is right out of Elon Musk Twitter. And he's not even in America, but he's right out of it. So, yeah, I wanted to let you know if you want to have the view from the Venezuelans, if you want to have the view from some of the Venezuelans out there, just to let you know, this is a guy with almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. His channel is supposed to be about psychology, the psychology of body language. It's not supposed to be a political channel, but he said, man, damn all of that. So he's just said, yeah, complete content change here. Welcome to Fox News Europe division of body language. Welcome to Newsmax. And that's where it is right there. Here's the issue, folks. Here is the bottom line. For those of us who pay attention to these things, we as black people in America, particularly the foundation here in America, we've understood this. Ever since we became the freedmen, we have understood that don't ever sit up here and cheer when these folks come up here with the white saviorism. This idea that they are being altruistic and they're being charitable and they're just doing this out of the goodness of their hearts and there's nothing in it for them. I want you all to understand something here. When cigarette companies at the turn of the 20th century, I need you all to understand that it was looked down upon for women read as white women, at the turn of the 20th century, not the 21st, 20th century, 1900s. Women did not have the right to vote, and it was looked down upon socially for women to be smoking. So these cigarette companies started a new campaign with one of Sigmund Freud's nephews, I think it was, Edward Bernays. And, we're going to normalize women smoking. We want to make sure that women are normalized for that. Because literally their goal was, we've maxed out the male market. The male consumer market for cigarettes has been maxed out. So we want to expand the market base. And as long as it's taboo for women to smoke, we need somebody to open up that market base for us and normalize it for women so we can expand our customer base. You think that they're telling you about freedom torches and women smoking, and yeah, you've come a long way, baby. You think that was because they were being altruistic. Oh, we believe in women's equality. Now buy our cigarettes. You think they're being they support women. Smoke Virginia Slims. They support women. They support women's equality. They're just being they're just doing the right thing. They're just being charitable. They support women. Yeah, that's right, baby. We support women. Now buy this carton. We've been watching this nonsense now for over a century, so we get it. We understand it. Every time we see this, the charitable, benevolent white savior, the first thing we say is, yeah, slam on the brakes, homie. Yeah, we ain't going for that. As soon as you start trying to sell us the white savior thing, we're like, yeah, we ain't going for that. No. There's always something in it for him that supersedes anything that you think is in it for you. It's always the same. They come in claiming to be your saviors, and it's always the same. They're not doing this out of the, quote, goodness of their hearts. Also, one more damn thing. These are the very people who put you in the situation you were in the first place. What? The white establishment and Trump slapped the sanctions on you, messing with the government, introducing the corruption, sowing conflict and dissension in your society, increasing the number of gang members. Those are domestic dissidents. You talk about an urban war zone, a domestic war zone. Hell yeah, these people create war zones around the world. So you have a bunch of Venezuelans that he's sitting up here saying that they're so poor that the women have to prostitute themselves. Isn't this amazing? In Venezuela, it's the same damn thing. Your people are so poor that they can't eat. He started his video talking about these fellas lost 40 pounds. They're starving. They can't find a loaf of bread, but there are bullets everywhere. So they can't afford food, but they can afford armament. They can afford firearms. They can afford guns. They can afford bullets. So they can't afford a loaf of bread, but they can find weapons. Bread is one of the most rudimentary foods on the planet, but they can get their hands on something as advanced as a gun? And not just any gun, they can get automatic weapons, bullets, though. I mean, not just guns, but guns and bullets. So they can't get bread and butter, but they can get guns and bullets. In Venezuela, in Brazil, in Colombia, in El Salvador, in San Salvador, in Mexico, in Libya, in Egypt. Yeah, the folks are quote unquote starving, but somehow they are armed to the teeth. Yes, Haiti, Ethiopia, the Congo. How in the hell is it that, they're so backward that they don't have money, they can't make food, they can't grow a damn tomato, but they're armed to the teeth? They can't import oranges, but they can find guns everywhere? We live that here. We know damn well that's a scam and a setup. We know that's instigated. We know it's organized. We know it's engineered. And we point the finger at the folk actually doing it. Because we know we didn't make the guns and we didn't import them. Who the hell brought it here? The same folk who say we need more police. Who brought it there? The same folk who said they need more police. They create a crisis and then they say, you better vote for me to fix this crisis that I made. I made this crisis. When I didn't have any power, I can certainly instigate turmoil and conflict. You better vote for me so I can fix this crisis that I made for you. So you need to be smart enough to realize when these things are organized and orchestrated, because Trump is not liberating Venezuela for Venezuelans. He's liberating Venezuela for white supremacy. You will now be a suburb. And that's what you will be. And how far you go and what you get will be limited. Oh yeah, and one more thing. When your usefulness has come to an end, you are expendable. One more thing, when your usefulness and your exploitation has come to an end, you will be discarded because you are expendable. So while you're cheering him for coming in today and taking over, because he's got you having Venezuela on Venezuelan beef, and there you go, Venezuelan on Venezuelan beef, and here comes the non-Venezuelan white savior. Oh, let me stop you two from fighting here. Let me pacify this. Oh, thank you for choosing my side, Mr. Anglo supremacist. Oh, yeah, all right, boys, sit down. Let me go ahead and reorganize this for you. And then when I get done, by the way, when I showed up, there were 2 Venezuelans fighting. When I got done, there was only 1 Venezuelan. And when I leave, when I got here, there were 2 Venezuelans in power, in conflict. When I got done, there was 1 Venezuelan in quote power. And when I leave, there will be no Venezuelans in power.
And deal with it.
And that's the way that goes. When they show up, there's 2 of you fighting. When they get done, there'll be 1. And when they leave, all of you will be disenfranchised and disarmed and powerless. That's the way that'll work. That's the way it works everywhere they go with everything they've done. And you know that they perfected the art of it because they will have you there cheering for it. They will have you cheering for it and talking about how great it is that they're doing it to you. That's what they're going to say. Take a look at how wonderful it is. Only thing we were missing was a white strong man to come down here. That's all we were missing. So I also want to say that when you ask about who these channels are that YouTube promotes, I need you all to understand YouTube doesn't promote these people in a vacuum, man. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. YouTube knows the channels they're promoting. They know the ones they're boosting. They shadow ban us for a reason, which is why all of you here need to be subscribed to the channel and even set your cell phones to it to remind you about when we're on, because we don't get shadow banned in a vacuum. They know who they're promoting at YouTube. It is deliberate. It is targeted. This is why they all come out talking like this. From Joe Rogan to this guy, they make sure you have 1 million subscribers so you have plenty of support, plenty of funding, plenty of AdSense. Remember, white supremacy has to fund its operations. Valuetainment and all the others. Damn! Oh, it's no accident, people. They make sure you get lots of subs. They make sure that you are fully funded. At least you're funded enough. They make sure you ain't going to be struggling now. You're not going to be held down because you can't be held down. We have to make sure you're properly funded so that you can continue defending the regime. So I want you to know, when you see all these YouTubers and stuff and how they got so big, YouTube promotes them, they promote them to everybody. This is why all of you know this body language guy. You never looked up a video about body language. None of us ever typed in the words defining body language into YouTube's search algorithm. We've never typed that in the search bar, and yet all of us have had this guy suggested to us, and none of us have watched more than maybe 1 or 2 videos. Now, how is it that he got recommended to all of us, and none of us ever looked up body language or interpreting body language or defining or deciphering body language, and yet all of us got served this guy? Just like you never typed in Joe Rogan and you all got served him. Just like you never typed in PewDiePie and you all got served him. Just like you never typed in Valuetainment and you all got served that. Isn't that amazing? You've been boosted. Daily Wire, Candace Owens. You get a nonstop flood of them. Things you never typed in or never indicated an interest in, and yet there it is being pushed to all of us, no matter where we are. All of us have seen this. Now, man, that ain't accidental. That's not accidental that we're all being solicited for the same gang of usual suspects. That's not accidental, man. The list I just named, all of us have seen it, but none of us typed in anything to tell the algorithm to serve us that. Oh no, the algorithm says, yeah, at this restaurant, you eat what we serve. Well, let me get some of that Jason Black and the Black Authority stuff there. Yeah, you don't want to eat that right there. Don't worry about that. What you really need is Valuetainment and the body language guy and Joe Rogan. Hey, don't you want to hear Candace Owens and Turning Point? Don't you want to hear them two going back and forth there? You know, twin wings on the bird of white supremacy. Don't you want to hear that? No. Let me hear that Black Authority thing then. Yo, he ain't on this week. No, he's live right. Hey, why didn't you give me a notification? He's live right now. So you're pushing this body language guy with his low-level white supremacy rolling, but the stuff you all subscribe to gets hidden from you and you don't get notifications for it. But this guy, if he posts a video, oh, they're going to put it on your timeline front page, let you know he's on. Come on, man. Come on, that's not accidental. They know what they're doing. They know. However, you might disagree. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and post up the link to the Zoom in the chat room for all of you here. So we'll give you an opportunity to weigh in on this as well. I did have another story that I wanted to touch on, maybe briefly, about Trump, and he wants to stop Wall Street from buying homes. So basically, he's looked at his numbers and seen, yeah, this is not good. So I wanted to cover that maybe briefly here tonight as a symbol and a sign to you all that he knows he's in trouble. And maybe during one of his episodes of lucidity that he's like, oh man, I don't have a friend in the world right now. And this time when I leave office, it might be more advantageous for somebody else to just go ahead and arrest me on the way out the door. So maybe I need to throw the population a bone here and deal with a real issue instead of just, taking care of my fat cat donors. So I think there's an element of that in there as well. In the meantime, here, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Thank you very much for your support here tonight. Shout out to my man, Mr. Richburg. Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. To my man, Keenan, Logic Before Emotion, Mogul Maze, Avery Turbon, Gentleman Lounge, and everybody else here. Thank you very much for your support tonight, Gilda. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll take a few of your phone calls and more. This is the Black Channel.
On the block, got the kids learning minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west, bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire, innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades, future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder, smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we repping the gains. Listen, be the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And we are doing a reminder here on tonight's program. Talking about, a Venezuelan YouTuber here, the body language guy. And I mean, just completely doing the white supremacist style crash out. He wants to let you know that, by the way, they are still looking to be turned into made men. They want to let you know they are still looking to be turned into made men, and they are still very much eager to get rolled into Anglo-whiteness. What? I document these things to let you know this is not happening in a vacuum. This is just somebody's way out there somewhere. He would not be doing this if he didn't think he had at least a reasonable level of support. So, yeah, he speaks for a lot of Venezuelans that, by the way, that stuff we showed in the other video there, no, that's not accidental. Not accidental at all. There's a reason why I showed that to you, to let you know, that was what was going on. It wasn't happening out of nowhere. They were looking to come up, man. They were looking to come up. They saw the life. They saw what was going on. They saw what was happening, and they wanted their piece of it. They wanted their piece of it. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and show you that thing. You all saw that before. When they were talking about the Venezuelan secretaries going to Miami, we're talking about in the 70s, people. So we're not even talking about when things got popping, really popping in the last 15 years. It's like, oh no. And by the way, this was back when you didn't need a passport to go everywhere. You could just get on a plane, and get your visa if you needed one. So back then, it was really, really liberal in how folks got around. One more thing is really only once the descendants of the American slaves started moving internationally, once that starts becoming a thing and Minister Louis Farrakhan starts having some rapport with Gaddafi, all of a sudden, okay, where your passports at before you leave? Remember, when we start progressing, that's when more regulations come in. More regulations don't show up for nobody else. It's only once it looks like we're coming up, here come the regulations. We start coming into a place, lower the speed limit, public dress code, noise ordinance. Oh, your wheels are too big? What about Billy Bob's 4x4? We ain't worried about that, nigga. Get over here. Oh, you want to leave the country? Where's your passport? We need gun control. I'm going to call the NRA. They believe in gun rights. The NRA said we need gun control. What? That's right, Black Panthers in Oakland. The NRA said, by the way, we need gun control. So, yeah, when we show up, hey, Negroes, you want to buy a house? Here comes the HOA. Federal government says you can't discriminate in housing anymore. The state said, that's your ass. Here's a HOA for you. So when we start coming up or making anything that looks like progress, immediately there is a counter law or counter regulation put into place specifically to either limit or altogether defeat whatever it was that was just done. So at best, it slows us down, and at worst, it stops whatever you were trying to do there. Now, that's what happens when we show up. But for these other folk, by the way, oh no, it's always been open there, man. They can move as they please. If they do have to make some stipulations in there, well, that's the unfortunate cost of regulating the Negroes over here. We got to do that. So I wanted to show you all that, by the way, a lot of them are looking to get made men. They're looking to get rolled back in. So the first thing we do is a paperwork check. That's the first thing that we do. We got to have a paperwork check on you. First thing we're going to do is find out, okay, what set you claiming? Who you with? Don't come to me talking about we need to, quote, work together, because I need to know who you supporting, who you backing. Don't tell me about you want to work with me and then I see you go across the street to the very folk I'm beefing with who are undermining me. There's no way, there's nothing you could be saying over there to them that is not undermining me. Shout out Ilda last night.
Auntie, chill!
We got to do a paperwork check, because if I see you tiptoeing back over there to Trump and them, I'm like, wait a minute, he's working to openly undermine me. Nancy Pelosi is working to openly undermine me. There's nothing you two can be talking about except undermining me. I can talk to you about what we're going to build without discussing undermining anybody. There's no way you can talk to those white supremacists and you're not talking about how you two are going to undermine me. That is not what it's going to be. So when you think you're going to play that slick game that, okay, let me go talk, hey, we need to reconcile, and what Dr. King said. I'm like, okay, tell me what Dr. King said at the end there. Since you know so much about it, tell me what he said at the end. Folks, the usual slick talk, that's not going to work anymore. Though we all need to come together. We're already together. We're already quote, together in California. Black people are not organizing in California anywhere to target Latinos on anything. You cannot point to a single organized effort from black folk in California, organized for almost anything, but certainly not one targeting anybody else. You can't show us an example of black people in Florida targeting Latinos. You can't show a single incident, a single example of black folk organizing to target Latinos on anything. Even as we're being targeted, you don't see us even mounting a counter defense, which you need to do. But by the way, you don't see that. So you're not responding to any aggression from us as on account of the fact that we're not waging any. I was like, oh no, we're showing you that we're the other side of white supremacy. We're here to victimize. And it's only when the block gets hot and they start practicing white supremacy against you that all of a sudden, well, let me see if I can recruit the Negroes to my cause. And then as soon as I get the man off my back, then I can go back to practicing white supremacy myself. That's where they went wrong with it. And while I'm on that subject there, let me go ahead and talk about the Somalians. Now, folks, for the Somalians here, I got to say it like it is, and this may offend a lot of folks here, but as the anchor man of the new black media, I must say it as it is. Somalians, no hate whatsoever, but y'all are on your own.
And deal with it, nigga.
I need to just say that across the board. No, I'm not even acknowledging the faux Somalian solidarity pro-black talk. No. Of course, there are some exceptions in there, absolutely, and I do acknowledge that. And for anybody who's with the program, we rock with you. But for Somalians in America as a group, man, look here. You all have become the poster child for off code. You all came over here and made it your job and your mission in life to be the definition of off code. So as far as I'm concerned, from here on out, you gonna have to get the beats and the boots. That's just what it's gonna have to be. You are on your own. This has been an inexcusable, unforgivable act of treason. You didn't just sit here and watch white supremacy. You just been like, oh, well, rah for it. No, from here on in, it's going to be what it's going to be. Ilhan Omar, baby, look here. If they get the DNA on you and your brother and the man come for you, the man coming for you. I know y'all want to keep it in the family, but hey, if they get the DNA on you and your brother and the man come for you, it's going down how it goes down. It's going down how it goes down. What did we gain? Tell me, what did we gain from the quote unquote Somalian community? What benefit did we receive from that? Oh, well, George Floyd this, George Floyd that. Okay, were they doing that for us or were they doing that for themselves? Because by the way, I saw Ilhan Omar. I did not see the, quote, Somalian community. By the way, in the wake of George Floyd, I did not see the Somalian community. I didn't see them. Now, I did see them when Officer Muhammad Noor got charged. But by the way, they wasn't really active back then either, were they? Oh, yeah, a brief reminder, everybody. The Somalian community wasn't really active when Muhammad Noor got arrested either now, were they? When y'all think back, they wasn't really active like that. That wasn't really what was going on. The only thing that it seems that they're active for is to see if they can get a government program set up for themselves. So basically, like the Jewish folk in New York, upper New York State with Curious Joel, the Somalians have basically created their own version of that in Minnesota. But other than that, no, man, no. Where's the benefit that we have received from the Somalian community? So as far as I'm concerned, we didn't gain anything when you were here. We won't lose anything when you're gone, except maybe another live-in traitor. But we're not. What are we gonna lose? You all have had 4 decades now to say, hey, FBA, we rock with you. Let's get something going, man. You all made it your cause to say, look here, we love Zadie, and you know, my daughter is married to this dude over here, and an Irishman, and it became that. That's what it was about then. It was that. They were sitting up here telling us how great it was to marry out. And I mean, oh, they're Mr. Diverse people, and his daughters are all married to white men. And you know what it reminds me of? For those of you who ever saw the film The Animatrix, which was the anime addition chapter to the Matrix trilogy. If you all ever saw The Animatrix, if you haven't, I think it's for free on YouTube right now. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. But for the second Renaissance, you remember the machines go to the UN and you have these robots showing up at the UN, and basically the female robot is basically wearing lingerie and the male robot is wearing a necktie and a top hat. So they're essentially naked, but the female robot is really just naked, but she's wearing some panties and a bra, and the male robot is wearing nothing but a tie and a top hat. This is their best approximation of assimilating and seeming like humans and seeming like people. And when I take a look on my screen right here, I see the same thing. He's trying his best to show white society, hey, I can dress like you, I can look like you, while I'm even wearing a hat. I mean, he's going all the way extra. White men don't wear hats anymore, but he's wearing one. He wants to show you just how dedicated and committed to this he is. And he's the main one that they beat down on. It didn't mean anything, but it does matter that he is this committed to doing this. He has not made any gesture to us in that regard. But then again, how could he? Because, you know, folk go to school with his daughter and everybody gonna have the 411 on what she's on. So he doesn't have anything culturally or socially to come to us with. So, no, dude, from here on in, y'all on your own here. And oh yeah, by the way, just a brief reminder, that goes for them other folk too. It's not just the Somalians now. This is blanket across the board that everybody comes looking for us for backup and black up when the very white supremacists that they were promoting and supporting and mobbing up with and collaborating up with, when that goes bad, when it eventually goes bad and backfires, because it always does, then they come running to look to us to see if they can get some backup to get the man to come off of them some. It's like, no. And I want to be clear about my next statements here. As far as I'm concerned, no, they're on the outs. They're done. They're on the outs and they're done. Don't call us about no J.D. Vance. Don't call us about Donald Trump and what he's saying. Don't call me about the Venezuelan dude, because remember that little fella right there was like, well, remember, we are not all bad. Well, go tell the Venezuelan fella that y'all ain't all bad.
Nigga, please.
Well, don't come to me. You go over there and go kiss up to the Venezuelan, the white Latino, and go tell him about how not all of us Somalians are bad. Not all of us Somalians are retards. Not all of us Somalians are a problem. Go tell him that. Since you love him so much and you want to make a point of letting folk know how much you love him, you go tell him. You go say that to him. Don't come bring that to us. Now, I want to make that clear across the board here. Everybody thinks that they can sit up here and do all this underhanded backstabbing stuff behind our backs, and that nobody's going to catch them or see them, and then they're going to come sauntering back over when they need something, and we're just going to be clueless and brainless and just support them because, well, that's just what we do, humanity and whatnot. It's like, yeah, we're on that reciprocal humanity time now. We checking paperwork and we checking to see, by the way, do you have a track record of supporting us? Because that's your currency over here. you got to bring us that currency over here because we can see where we supported you. I got to see your track record of supporting us. You see, folks, when we talk about upsetting the status quo, all these other people who on the low have still been jockeying to become made men under white supremacy, they can't afford for us to upset the status quo on account of the fact that we're not handing out any white supremacist cookies. Cookie! Yeah, shut up. We're not handing out no white supremacist treats. You can't come to us and get a loan on the white supremacist behavior. So we don't have any white supremacy to offer you. So as a result, we don't have no white supremacist cookies to hand out. So all they see is, oh, you gonna end my hustle. I put all my chips. I was doing all this so I could get a white supremacist come up. But if you destroy the status quo, well, I can't get that. People, I can't collaborate with a fellow who says, hey, how many white men can you offer me? Well, I don't have any white men to offer you. Okay, that's okay. Do you have some white women you can offer me? No. All I've got is that so-called black unity and black empowerment. I've got that. Oh, you had nothing to offer me, nigga. So how do I have a collaboration with somebody who's saying, hey, we can collaborate if you got some white men to bring me? I need some white men for my daughter, and I need a white woman for myself. And well, I have no white people to offer you. I have no white asses for you to kiss. I've got black empowerment to offer you. I cannot use that. Okay, well, I need a white ass to kiss. But I have none. Then you have nothing to offer me. You know what? Then I ain't got nothing to offer you. But more importantly, you don't have a damn thing to offer me. So I want to make it clear to everyone here going forward. I want to make it clear to everyone going forward that for the Somalian community in particular here, this is gonna rub some people the wrong way, but this is essential. I created the term thinning the herd decades ago. I know the phrase predates that, but in our context, I talked about the need to thin the herd decades ago. And the Somalian community in particular, it is essential that we make an example of this. When you got folks here who specifically come here with an off-code agenda, specifically diametrically hostile to us, we need to make an example here. We need to show everybody in front of the world that we're going to make an example here. For anybody else who thinks they're going to try something like this and that it's going to go unresponded to and you're going to get a pass and we're going to talk about the love of Jesus and forgiveness. No, we're going to make an example of you. And the example that we are going to make is for the Somalians in particular. Yeah, we see the game y'all play. You see, out there in the streets in Minnesota right now, y'all notice that the Somalians ain't in the streets stomping for Nicole Good. Why, these women were out there, these white women were out there stomping for the Somalians. Y'all, the Somalians ain't even stomping for their damn selves, in case you all didn't notice. Well, yeah, because a lot of them are just worried they're going to get arrested if they have too high of a profile. So just see the damn game they're playing. They plead for sympathy, but they don't take to the streets. Now, that's the little scam they got going. And at this point here, as far as I'm concerned, that has zero redeeming value. No redeeming value whatsoever. I see the game y'all are playing. Thousands are in the streets on your behalf, and you all are AWOL. That's the way y'all play things, is you sit up here and want everybody else to support your, quote, rights and what you get here. It's like, yeah, I see the game y'all playing. Yeah, what need do we have for you? I don't see where the benefit is. I see nothing but liability. So from here on in, y'all not, let me just say this is exactly what I mean. Y'all are on the outside. not just you're on your own. When I say you're on your own, you're on the outside. You're on the outside. You're on the outside and we locking the door. And let this be an example to everybody else who thinks that there's some immigration loophole and some societal loophole, and you're going to get a foothold in here, and then you're going to be an active force working against us and got your own agenda and whatnot. No, that we don't need any of it. As far as I'm concerned, the Somalians are the same as the Afrikaners as far as I'm concerned. What? Damn! What? If you want to know what my perspective on the Somalians is at this point, my perspective on the Somalians is that there is no distinction between them and the Afrikaners. Politically and socially, as far as I'm concerned, they are interchangeable. Go find me the quote unquote best, nicest, most polite Afrikaner that you can. And the Somalians are essentially the same as him. They're essentially the same as him. So, as far as I'm concerned, they are the dark-skinned Afrikaners. They got their own little enclave up there where they are instigating and plotting against us and undermining against us. And it's like, okay, well, you and Elon Musk are basically the same. Basically the same. And there is nothing there for us to fight for. There's nothing there for us to support. There's damn sure nothing for us to sit up here and get out in the streets and risk ourselves for here. No, you've been a net negative. They've been a net negative. And so going forward, yeah, when I say they're on their own, I mean they're on the outside. They're on the outside. And I'm saying this publicly and openly to make an example out of this. That for everyone else who thinks they're going to try that we're your color, so we must be your kind thing, and thinks that we're the civil rights generation and we're moving and operating like them, and that, well, as long as you quote unquote black like us, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. And then even when we have concrete evidence of your treason, that we're going to just ignore it and overlook it and hope that eventually you change. No, I'm not hoping you change to anything except gone. I'm not looking for you to change anything except to change to be gone. I'm looking for that. Right there. And let this be an example to all the others that it's a new day. It is a new day. You are not going to play the, well, we're not white card. The question is not, are you white? The question is, are you black empowerment? That's the question. So for all the others who think that they're going to play the old game where they come up to us smiling and kikiing and shucking and jiving and, hey, how you doing there, dude? It's a new day. And let the Somalians be the first example of this, that, by the way, you are going to be officially our first inductees into the policy of not so benign neglect. It's like, no, we're not supporting anything they got going on for you. When we hear Somalian, we're just going to have alarms going off. And that is essential for our survival. You have been off code. There is no hope that you are going to become on code. So for the Somalian delegation, we are permanently trading you to the white delegation. And from here on in, you rock with them. If you can. Though I have a suspicion that will not go nearly as well as you tell yourselves. And in case you didn't notice, this is just a preview of coming attractions, because you don't see a bunch of Democrats swinging into your rescue either. The only place y'all got backup is up in Minnesota. In case you didn't notice, the only place backing you is Minnesota. That's the only wacky place backing you outside of Minnesota, in case you didn't notice, the silence is deafening. And when you all start appealing to support at the federal level, yeah, you in for a hell of a surprise from both the Republicans and the Democrats. In case you didn't notice, don't worry, they didn't. But that's how those wake-up calls go. The wake-up calls eventually get your undivided attention. Eventually they do. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. Click that red subscribe button on the YouTube app. Click that yellow notification bell. Make sure you put a reminder in your phone. Do whatever you need to. Get a parakeet, sundial. Make sure you join us here every weekend. If you haven't been to blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in a nice program live or recorded, but especially live. Thank you to all of you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program. And this concludes this broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.